All right, so describe new forms of technology and weaponry that changed fighting during World War One. There you go. Okay, all right. So describe new forms of technology and weaponry that changed fighting during World War One. So, what created all this new weaponry? Why were these countries trying to invest a lot of time and effort and money and funding into their militaries? What was the reason for it? Go ahead, Griffin. Yeah, good job. So, trench warfare was a stalemate, a bloody stalemate. And we talked about life in the trenches. It was terrible. So the only way to try to combat against this stalemate and try to break the deadlock within Europe, and we only specifically talk about the Western Front, is by coming up with these new forms of weaponry and technology. So, what forms of technology you come up with in weaponry? Noah, I know you weren't here yesterday, but what do you think? Mustard gas, what's that? Okay, all right. So, with mustard gas, chlorine, tear gas, that was used to try to flush out the trenches, okay, or maybe eliminate some of the invasions, the sieges coming across no man's land. Right, it would most often stop you dead in your tracks. Okay, towards the end of the war, you'll see a lot of these soldiers utilizing these gas masks. Okay, really for the majority of the end of the war, right there, in 1916 moving forward. Really, that's when you see a lot of these soldiers and troops wearing these gas masks. For the most part, they weren't efficient. They weren't really beneficial at all. They didn't really have the form of technology that you could actually see through really the lenses of these masks, and it was really hard to breathe through these masks. So for the most part, they weren't very efficient. But trying to help out any way, shape, or form on the battlefield to try to prevent any type of really ailments from the chemical warfare. And that's what they're trying to approve of. Good. So mustard gas, that's a good one. What's another form of technology that you maybe wrote about? Go ahead, Tanner.
The British tanks.
Tanks, yeah, good job. What were they used for?
Basically battling ram, but they're effective due to them breaking down and getting stuff in the mud.
Yeah, good, good. So World War II, we'll talk about some of these new effective tanks, new efficient tanks. The Germans will come up with a lot of efficient forms of tanks that can move at top speeds, maybe 30 miles per hour, and heavily plated with armor, sloped too to reflect any type of really heavy machine guns and different types of mortar rounds, you name it. But in World War One, they're used as battering rams. Their goal was to try to be used as a shield, traveling across no man's land, where the soldiers would really just pack in behind it, utilizing it as a shield. And as the tank would break through the barbed wire and break through the enemy trench, the soldiers would just flush in from behind. Okay, so it really was just used as a shield. But yeah, oftentimes they'd break down just because they didn't really have a motor and engine that could really effectively move this big hunk of piece of metal across no man's land. And with the artillery constant bombing down into no man's land, the constant weather, the tank really wasn't efficient. Okay, towards the end of the war, yeah, they're becoming more efficient, but for the most part, they break down almost all the time. And their top speeds maybe like 5-8 miles per hour, not too fast. All right, what else? Kara, what do you write about?
Tear gas.
Okay, tear gas. We kind of mentioned that with mustard gas. Good. Gabe? Machine guns. Okay. How are they effective on the battlefield here in World War One? Yeah, good, good. So yeah, machine guns were created before World War One, but they're becoming more efficient during this war, and especially on the trenches, trying to prevent any type of sieges or attacks across no man's land. We all know you can mow down a lot of troops and soldiers all at once. Good. Griffin, what do you write about? Yeah, airplanes. Good job. Airplanes. And for the most part, they were very inefficient at first, but towards the end of the war, with dogfights up in the air, utilizing the planes as, with bombing runs over the trenches, and even supply lines and industries and factories in Germany, these airplanes were becoming more equipped for the battlefield. But at first, not so much, right? They didn't have any type of armor on it. It was really just a thick canvas material. They couldn't really fly at top speeds. And the only way you could really shoot the opposition is if the engine would shut off, right? And sometimes that engine wouldn't come back on. Towards the end of the war, they equipped the machine guns on the side of the airplanes. And if you shut up this airplane, most likely it's going to catch some of the engine or maybe the fuel. And because it's a canvas material, it oftentimes bursts up into flames. So the only way out really was dive bomb down with it, burn with the plane. You could jump out of the plane, but they didn't really have parachutes at that time. So they just gave you a revolver. So I guess you know where that's going to end up, right? The easy way out. All right, so planes, good. Anything else? Anything else? Eddie, flamethrowers, good job, good job. So how are they used on the battlefield?
They shot burning walls. They're on 30 feet.
Yeah, good job, good job. So in World War II, we'll talk about it, how this is equipped for maybe one man use, but in World War One, there's about 5, 10 men. You need a crew to haul this big form of technology, this weaponry, this flamethrower around. You have one man on the nozzle, you have a couple men on the hose, and you have a couple men trying to push this tank around the battlefield. So you're really like a sitting duck. And if they shoot that tank, it's going to blow up. It's going to blow up. So good job. But hey, it flushes out the tanks and the bunkers, right? Or the trenches and the bunkers. Good. Anything else? No? Okay, you guys get the gist here with some of these weapons. I think I mentioned submarines yesterday, U-boats, talked about that a lot. Again, new form of technology. It was created before World War One, but really equipped for the war, especially for the Germans as they're trying to knock out supplies coming across the Atlantic. All right, so for the activity today, you're really just going to research new forms of technology and weaponry in World War One. Okay, and there's going to be a graphic organizer here, so that'll help you. You might see it on a test, so that'd be nice and helpful for you to study and look at as a study tool. Okay, so this is what it looks like here. Weaponry of World War One. Hopefully the formatting doesn't go all over the place. That'd be terrible. But you're just going to explain the importance of the weapon or technology here, when the weapon was introduced and by which country, and then a citation. Citation. So like MLA format. I know you know how to format. I was talking to Miss Kerwin about it. And so if you find something interesting online about this weapon, okay, obviously cite your source. So some of these we actually talked about in class. You just want to say, talked about in class, cited in the course, that's fine. Some of them, though, I didn't mention. And then down here, don't forget, I want you to find 2 other forms of weaponry or technology that you found through your research. You were searching when trying to complete this activity, and write that at the bottom here. So don't forget about that. Don't forget about that. Okay, is there any questions? You know what we're doing? Okay, please use your time wisely. You have a lot of time to complete this. Let me publish that for you. Say you, Kara. Okay.